If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm Jay Clay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Perfect. Yo. What's up? Happy day, happy Sunday in perfect mode land. You are at the perfect place at the perfect time, ready to accept your perfection. And I am your host, Jay Clay, spiritual rapper and teacher. I'm holding it down by myself right now as Troy is leading a team to a championship victory. And he should be on in about 10 to 15 minutes. So I'll hold it down for now. But in the meantime, be sure to share, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, click the link as well just to subscribe so you can get this everywhere and anywhere. And yeah, today's topic is the self-care ritual you've been overlooking, thinking differently. Whew. So we all got our rituals and things. We all got our things we do daily. Like I shave, shower. You know, some people don't shower daily. I can't lie. Sometimes I don't when it's when it's like real cold outside. I ain't going nowhere. But anyway. But we all have our daily rituals. But with our mind, we don't always take time to detox from things or just take care of it in the way that it needs to be. So everything that we experience is tied to a thought. Even feelings, even though we have feelings, those are all tied to thoughts. And when we feel good, we think positive thoughts around it. When we feel bad, we think negative thoughts about it around it. And it's tough to know which comes first. Is it the feeling that comes first or the thought that comes first? No matter which comes first, we feel it the strongest. And if we could direct our thoughts so much so that we always experience the good feelingness, circumstances almost won't matter. So one thing I just want everybody to just kind of think about right now is, what's one thought pattern you've had since childhood that you've never questioned ever? And what's important about this is, when we grow up, we start to learn things. We learn things about the world. We experience certain things. We take on meanings. And when we start off, we have like a clean slate. So we're very impressionable and we just take on, we're like, oh, so that's the truth. That's the truth. But unless we revisit some of these thoughts with a more seasoned mind, with a more wise mind, we may end up living according to a 3-year-old's mindset, in a sense. And I know that sounds crazy, but it really is true. This is a mild example, and I probably shared this on here before, but I remember growing up and I asked my dad after the winter, like, how do the trees grow back green? Like, how does it know to grow back green after the winter was over? And he said, if you look real closely, you'll see a little green bug that will crawl on the tree. And I don't know if he said plant a seed or something, and then it will grow green again. So for years after that, I was looking for that bug. Like, I was really looking for the bug. It was no internet back then. There were encyclopedias, but what do you just look for? Like a bug that plants green seeds. So after a while, I thought about it and I was like, man, I think he just told me that to just so I'd be quiet for the moment. And then I asked him again and he just laughed. So, but I said it to say that there's so many instances of that. And again, the people involved, it's not necessarily meant to be malicious. They could believe it too. It could be siblings. It could be friends. They heard something from someone else and it made such an impression on us. And we lived our life according to it that we didn't even stop for a second to even know if there was truth to it. So one of the first things I want to discuss is redefining self-care. self-care as we know it is taking time out to just take care of ourselves. Make sure we're good, make sure we're good, make sure we're at ease, make sure we're at peace, make sure there's no stress, that we're healthy, that we're breathing in clean air, drinking plenty of fluids, water preferably. Just getting good nutrients and nutrition in. But we never take time to really think about our thoughts and the role it plays, the goal it plays, and the important things about our thoughts. Let me say this, okay? Anybody that knows me knows this phrase changed my life forever. Watch your thoughts for they become your words. Watch your words for they become your actions. Watch your actions for they become your habits. Watch your habits for it becomes your character. Watch your character for it becomes your destiny. And all from a lonely thought, a little thought that you think repeatedly, that you think frequently, it kind of becomes your frequency, the vibration that you resonate at. And that thought can bring with it adjacent thoughts. It can bring cousins with it, family members that make it easier to think certain thoughts and get you to go down a certain pathway or a certain pattern. So, for example, once I decided that every person has joy in them, that every person has love in them, that every person is good on some level, it's easier for me to see them as that and bring adjacent thoughts to it so that they can only reflect that to me. Even if they say something that others would see as off-putting, it wouldn't matter because I decided through my thoughts that this is what I'm going to see, this is what I'm going to experience. I set my thought pattern, I set it through intention, but it brought in like thoughts. And I've been in situations where me and someone else experienced the same person or the same situation, and they saw it as maybe a bad thing or a negative thing, but again, they were only seeing through the eyes of their thoughts. And if we don't check our thoughts, if we don't take time to really just see what we're thinking and understanding that the thought has no power, meaning like we control the thoughts and we can change the thought, we can change our experience of a situation. So a lot of times when we get mad at someone is because of their actions, right? Or their words. They said something that we didn't like, they did an action that we didn't like, and it's not them that we're mad at. It's our thought. It's the thought that came into mind of what this means. Like we are the definer of our reality. We've defined everything. Now I know you can go Google a definition of something, but those words mean something specifically to you. And it's even in your speech and the things that you say. Um, for instance, it's a perfect example. I was at the basketball court today, and lately, because it's warm again here in Houston, so many people come into the court. So if you lose, you got to wait a long time. And this one guy, he was angry. He said, "Man, same thing every week." And I thought to myself, I'm like, yeah, it is the same thing every week, but that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. We get to play every week. We get to exercise. We get to try new things on the basketball court. But he saw it as when you lose, you got to wait like 3 or 4 games, if that, to even try to play again. So that's what I mean. Like that, you can have the same phrase but different meanings. And when you kind of check in with yourself with what certain words mean to you, you get to redefine your life literally. And those definitions bring about a new experience. So, but the problem is we're so not used to controlling our thoughts. We think our thoughts control us. So some people's own thoughts are their own enemies in some ways, and that's so crazy to think about because these are your thoughts. Like they are yours. You own them. You control them the same way that you own and control your body. Your body responds to your mind. You tell it to lift its arm, it lifts its arm. We don't know how we do this. It's automatic now. It became habit the same way that thought. We once had to really think of how to walk, how to talk, but now we just do it. It's like we manifest it in every moment. And anything we want to create and manifest, we can do that at any moment as well. And it's a very beautiful thing. And I'm about to bring in Troy because he came in. Yo,
Yes,
Troy,
sir.
what's happening?
What's the word, baby?
Uh, I could barely hear you. Say something. Say something.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Cool, cool.
yeah,
Well, first off, what's happening? Did y'all win?
yeah. We won. What was the score? 30-8.
30, and this is the championship.
Nah, this was Brody's game before his playoffs.
Okay. My bad, viewers. I told people you was leading them to another championship.
Well,
Uh,
I guess to speak on that, we actually had a championship game yesterday for TJ, and we ended up winning second in the district. So we were area champions, but we were second regional. So yeah,
okay, tight, beautiful.
the
So yeah,
wonderful
right
world of
now we're just
basketball.
talking about the topic, the self-care ritual you've been overlooking, thinking differently, and I've been speaking about like what redefining self-care looks like. And so let's why don't you kick it out? What does it mean to you?
Um, Self care.
Like
Uh,
redefining it.
well, and that's what I'm thinking. Like when I think about redefining what self care means, or what I thought it meant before was, taking off from work, being able to just sit in the house, not do anything, somebody bringing me something to eat. That's the way that whenever I first heard it, or the way that I've witnessed it from other people, what self care means. But when I think about it, self care is for me is more
We lost your audio a bit. Nah, we can't hear you. You gone. There you go.
you can't hear me now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more about mental work, the mentality of how I'm thinking about where I am, and that's pretty much how I view self care at this present time.
Okay. And how would you redefine it in terms of thinking differently now? Like do you take thoughts into consideration at all, or are you
Thoughts are the only thing that are in consideration, because it's more about what am I thinking about. I'm trying to get this camera right. What am I thinking about? How I feel about myself? What am I thinking about how I feel about my circumstances? What am I thinking about how I feel about the situations that I find myself in? And that's again, reframing them to be, first of all, understanding where it is and reframing them to be exactly what I want them to be.
gotcha? So another thing that I want to speak about is how the mind is a garden of sorts. And when you think of a garden, you think of vegetation, you think of things that grow, you think of flowers, plants that you water, that you seed, you plant the seed in the dirt, you water it, give it plenty of sunlight, and it blossoms into certain things. And the mind is no different, because even a single thought can blossom into the greatest thing. Like everything that we do well, it started from a thought. Um, Even music, I love music, and I was like, man, I want to make music one day, but I never knew a path to it, but the thought was I'm gonna figure out a way to do music one day, and I figured it out. But there were other things that I was like, it's not possible for me to do this. I haven't figured it out yet. And again, that's because that both thoughts blossomed. Whatever thoughts you have, it's going to be true to you as long as you accept it as truth, as long as you water it and give it plenty of sunlight, or which is the same as focus. But as soon as you change that up and focus on what you want, those things blossoms as well.
And this
Yeah.
is just a question for you. Have you ever tried to time frame it, with the mentality changing? Have you ever tried to time frame? You know what I mean? Like, say, okay, I put my mind to this. I know that it's going to be true, but I only given it this amount of time, and I'm just wondering.
I think I see what you're saying. Yes and no. So okay, I'm really thinking about it. So yes, in the terms of I'm saying by this time, yes, I'm gonna embody this. This is gonna be my world. I'm gonna make sure of it. But when I put a stipulation, like if it don't happen by this time, I'm done with it. Then it never really happens by that time. Like it's rare that it happens by that time, because I don't really believe in it, because I'm only giving it a time frame. Is that what you're asking?
You're not. That's exactly what I'm asking, and exactly where I wanted to go. And again, when we're talking about reframing our thought process, or the thought process of self care, that's a part of it. Because a lot of times, when you've proclaimed or you've set yourself down and said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is my self care. This is the way that I see this," then we say, "But there has to be a result within this time frame." I think you remove yourself from the self care and move yourself into a realm of caring about what other people think, or caring about what people think about results, and you take yourself out of being 100% into being conditional. And I guess that's the way that I think about it.
Yeah, agreed. Especially when, like, let's say, using the analogy, the mind is a garden. if you have two flowers or two plants with conflicting ideas, the one that you show more attention to, that you shine more light on, that you give more sunlight, that one is probably going to grow bigger in your garden. So it's important to not I wouldn't even say pluck them out, because it takes an amount of attention to deroot or deplant something when you can just give more attention to that what you want and let those other thoughts just kind of fend for themselves. Like, just allow them to be as you want to be treated, like you want to be allowed to be. Everyone else wants to be allowed to be. So don't uproot them. Don't potentially kill those thoughts. Just make sure you're focusing more on the thoughts that can lead you to your bright ideas. I mean, lead you to the life you want.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. And just kind of to piggyback on the uprooting part of the thoughts, also in self care, realizing that you are where you are for a reason, no matter what, right? And then versus plucking out what we would call weeds, finding out their purpose, finding out what value, because everything provides a value, no matter what. And I think finding out the value in those things is important. Because again, when I try to frame this, I think it's all a part of the self care process. Because again, a lot of times when we're living in a world that we haven't deemed to be the world that we want to live in, it's all because of the way that we thought about the value that it actually provides to us.
Yeah, agreed. So let's talk about what can be very helpful right now is breaking these mental patterns. And so, for example, what I mean by mental pattern is, how, well, before you came on, I was talking how like every thought comes with its associated thoughts, or like its cousins, it's siblings, things that are very related to it. And so I've seen firsthand in myself and others where whatever you're thinking picks up steam. So let's say you're worrying about something like, man, so-and-so is not here, maybe something happened. Then you start thinking of all the possible things that can happen that are on that negative trajectory, if that was the trajectory that you started on. But if you had then said, oh, something crazy must have happened and they'll be here, any second, or they probably got caught up or in traffic or something, you have adjacent thoughts to that, but it won't necessarily be the negative one. Or you can think, they get here when they get here. They always get here on time. Things always work out for me. And you have adjacent thoughts to that, and you can get caught up in these loops. But it's important to choose the loop or choose the pattern, or recognize when you're in a pattern that you don't want, because it can't do anything but bring more circumstances and experiences to you of that like nature.
So I'm gonna tell you what's funny about this. The thought that was going through my head. Well, it's funny. Talking about adjacent thoughts and
Yeah.
just all the adjacent thoughts that came to my head while you were saying it. That's number one. But to your point, I think about all the times where I've been actually in traffic, or I've been driving, and somebody's in front of me and they just moving along at whatever pace they feel like they want to. Speed limit 45, but they driving 30. Or vice versa, they driving too fast. And in my mind, there's always an instant reaction where, oh, they tripping. They ain't got nothing else to do. Like it's all of these different things. And from that, I start spawning all other kind of ideas about what they have going on. But what I've done to challenge myself is I always try to come up with the best reason for them to be doing what they're doing. So I say, you know what? They got a baby in the car and they're not trying to shake up the baby's brain, right? And like to your point, my adjacent mind starts to run on its own. Now, I might not be acknowledging it, but when I say it starts to run on its own, it starts to relieve me of the tension of the stress. And this is, again, self-care. So now I'm more relaxed. And even no matter how much they're driving at that point, how slow they're driving or how fast they're driving at that point, I'm free. And it's all because of the reframing of the mind.
Yeah, and to that, we've programmed certain feelings to accompany certain thoughts.
True.
So when you think certain thoughts, automatically you start feeling the feeling. So like you said, in traffic, I've done that as well, where you perceive someone did something stupid or something that you don't like, and you're ready to just go off. You're like, man, I can't believe you did this dumb thing, and you're feeling angry. You're feeling that pull. You feel like you want to retaliate in some way. Like, just so many things come to mind, and that doesn't serve you. Like, no good can come out of that retaliation or these thought patterns. And so how can we either reprogram or deprogram ourselves so that we can break this cycle, or make sure that we can direct it to how we want it.
And I think that's the practice part of it all. Because again, just using traffic as the example, like the story that I told you, um, there have been plenty of times where I've been caught up in traffic, and what I had to do, because again, one of the things that I don't, I'm the most unhappy about is traffic. I don't like being in traffic, right? But what I started to do is, and this is something that you probably heard people do, and I heard people do it, which is the reason why I started to say it. The reason why I'm in this traffic because it's stopping me from getting into something else that I shouldn't or wouldn't have wanted to be in the first place. And so, in that moment, again, this is the traffic didn't change, my circumstances didn't change, but the simple fact that I told myself that the reason I'm here is so that way I don't receive trouble. And again, I'm not telling you to think about trouble, but I'm just saying for myself, so I don't receive any trouble down the line, it reframes and changes the way that I feel about where I'm at. And it also actually changes where I'm at because it's no longer traffic anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. And so I kind of want to break down that even further. So in order to do what you did, you have to on some level be conscious of your thoughts, to even know that you're going down the stream. And I guess I'm trying to figure out like what's the best way for someone to even be conscious of their thoughts to put that little break in there, to stop things. And shout out to Sarah.
What up, Sarah? I would tell you again, that's where checking your emotions and understanding. Whenever there's an emotion that you show that is not of you, and that's the part of recognizing who you are. Like I know that I didn't want to be mad in these instances. I know I don't want to be frustrated. And then I get to ask myself, well, why would I be mad? Why would I be frustrated? And I think that in any given situation, when you find yourself, you know what your level set is, you know what your baseline is, and if you're not in your baseline, it should give you cause to pause to look.
I love that you're not at your level set, your baseline. So okay, let's talk about that then. There was well, actually let me ask everybody this. Like what's the last time that a thought completely changed? When's the last time that you completely changed your mind about something? Like what triggered that shift? So just for anybody watching, if you want to share, just think about that. And I'm going to share two thoughts that that had a big change in me. The number one,
I'll go ahead.
Yeah, the first is that our natural state is happy and peaceful. Like that's just our natural state. That's just where we're supposed to be. That's just it. And one of the ways it impacted me was like, what? Like I thought you had to work to get here. I thought you got it. It's like, no, you're supposed to be here. And the second thing is you're not supposed to get sick ever. Like, and I remember because I used to get so sick so much as a kid, like at least once a year. I thought it was just something you have to go through. Like, oh, here's my rite of passage of being sick this year. I just have to have it. But once I figured, once I accepted the idea, accepted the thought that I didn't have to get sick anymore, there was a change. There was a change in my behavior. There was a change in things. It's like, okay, well, how can I ensure this if I'm supposed to never be sick? And it's just funny how like these shifts can take place and do things in your mind. But go ahead.
No, I'm with you. And funny is, I think about drinking alcohol, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why I bring this up is because you're talking about a time where your mental shift changed everything. And the reason why, again, with drinking, I've had that shift 3 or 4 times. And what I mean is, there's a time where I was just like, drinking is crazy. Don't do it. Just the dumbest thing ever. Just being judgmental of the certain circumstances. Again, part of that is when you talk about baseline and level set, it was built on how I felt about the people around me that were drinking the way that they acted at the time.
Yeah.
But then again, a time happens where and I don't know if it's because I witnessed the love or I witnessed the joy, but there's a time when me and you, we just decided we go out of town and we lived it up. And then my entire dynamic of the way that I thought about drinking changed, right? But then I have a son. You know, my wife tells me that she's pregnant with TJ, and immediately, because of my emotions being tied to it, the way that I felt about it changed, and I was like, I don't want to drink. I don't want to do none of that. And so life events or things can come along that trigger you to move a certain way, and it's no neither right nor wrong. But I think that's what's important again is going back and checking your baseline and then understanding, okay, self-care, where do I want to be, and giving yourself an opportunity to find it.
Man, I'm glad you said that. That's a good point. Sometimes life will get you to change your mind. I know you didn't say it like that, but that's what I got from you. How certain like life circumstances can bring about a change. Because there have been
Yeah.
times where, again, you feel so terrible when something happens, and you're like, man, how could this have happened? This is out of nowhere. You feel bad. You just feel distraught. But then come to find out that was the best thing possible because it got you to shift a lot of thoughts at once. Like it's nothing like a life-changing event or just something just really not going according to plan that it gets you to change your whole life. And I say that to say that, if anybody is watching is going through it, going through something like this, just know that this was for a reason. This is for your highest good because your natural baseline is to be happy, is to be peaceful, is to be full of joy. And this is like, okay, you going down this wrong path. Let's reset you. I'm just gonna shake things up real quick. And I appreciate life for that. I appreciate God for that. Like it is, it. I can't say that I always appreciate it in the moment, but because of the experience of having these things happen a certain number of times in my life, like I no longer doubt these situations, and I now have a positive thought assigned to it. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up about rolling into life events when they happen to allow yourself to allow your thoughts to change.
And I wanted to wait till my boys got out the car just to say this one last part because they just got out.
Yeah.
But again, the last trigger, and again, this is about level setting and understanding who you are, right? I told you how I had the phase where I didn't drink. The reason why I didn't drink is because I was driving one day. I went to a party. I told you this story before. I went to a party, and I happened to be the designated driver this day. And again, designated driver back then is not the same as it is now, at least based off my understanding. But we all went to go drink, and we were messed up. And when we got in the car to leave, I'm driving. Now, mind you, I still have it out here so that way I can actually have these thought processes myself. But I think to myself, dang, everybody in the car is passed out throwing up, and I messed up too. I really can end everybody's life today on accident because I'm not in the right state of mind. And from that moment, for myself, the baseline was saying I'm not in the right state of mind. Troy getting the right state of mind, and it changed me. It changed me. Self-care was you always want to be in the right state of mind. So therefore, my mentality around drinking changed dramatically. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I meant by, something altering, but me also coming back and finding out what makes sense to me. And it doesn't mean it had to be like that for forever, other than the love and the joy that we talk about. We'll go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. So, but speaking of that, just to share my experiences with just different substances and things. One of the things that I realized about myself, like if I was to try drinking or try weed or something, like every time I try to get back to my baseline while on that, you know what I mean? So it's like, what's the point of doing that if I'm still taking control of my thoughts? And it's harder now to take control of my thoughts because it's like, what is going on right now? I have to use all my willpower and all my focus to get control of my thoughts again. And it's like, well, why even put yourself through that? Like, because or at least where I'm at right now is I love to have control of my thoughts because I see how each thought can lead to an outcome or not even an outcome. It leads to me experiencing the world a certain way. Just to get a little deeper for a second or do a thought experiment. One of the things that has been said is in this life is just you and God. Like, I mean, we all exist, but we only see the version. Like, I only see the version of you that my thoughts allow. Like how I defined you in your mind is how you can ever be to me, even if you're something totally different with other people. So like I could be like, man, Troy, that's my dude. Like he's a great guy, but they could be somebody that's be like, nah, man, Troy, like this dude is terrible. Or but again, like it's but because of my thoughts for certain things and certain feelings and the type of people I think belong in the world and all of that, like I experience that and the opposite of that, like that and not that. And we all do. So like how I see the color red might be how you see the color green, but it's all you knew as red. So we still identify the same color, even though we see things differently. And so it's just an interesting thought experiment to do, to just realize like all of this I'm experiencing is just really my own thoughts. I'm seeing my own thoughts personified. I'm seeing who I think I am, the reflection of it, through the eyes of others or all these other things. But go ahead.
You know, what again, the thing that comes to my mind is because I'm literally in control of the way some other people see the world. And I'm talking about my kids. And it's funny because um, I don't know what their perspective is in a lot of instances, because they will ask me, why do you do this? Or why is this? Or why does this look like this? And the way that I interpret that is, this is something that they're witnessing that they've never witnessed before. And so in those moments, I have the opportunity to shape their mind and also reshape my own. And it's just funny how we don't realize a lot of times. And again, for a kid, they can easily come to me and ask the question. But as adults, we don't. When we witness things, we don't necessarily always lean to anybody else to get anybody else's perspective. We try to process it on our own. And so to the points that you're making, like for me, it's like, why will you not process it in such a way that's beneficial to you? That, you know, and again, when I think about self-care, where is there anything wrong with you looking at anything in the brightest way, or wanting, or like, what did you say on the song that we just did? How you the way you start the song, it's a phrase I can't say call it now, but on Hot Vibes. What was the first line you said? You don't know,
I'll
like
remember.
but you said something that's so real to what I'm saying.
Oh, I love peace. I love me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what did you say there? I love peace. I love
I
me.
love me. I love what I love. Why is that so
Why that's so
unique?
unique? Why like straight up though? But that's the point. Like when I talk about self care, it's not going to look like other people thinks that it's supposed to look, right?
Yeah.
But that's okay. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. And so one thing I was thinking about when you said you're in control of how others see reality, I was like, can anybody really be in control of someone else's? So I was thinking back when I was a kid, and in my household, there are certain things that it's easy to fall into that hypnotic rhythm of, because that's just the overall opinion of the household. But I still remember how there were a lot of things I just accepted, and there were some things that I didn't accept. And I was wondering, like, what is that? What would cause me to not accept it? Or not, I wouldn't even say accept it. I was curious about it, like, nah, that can't be the definite answer. But I'm not gonna say that this is not the answer, but I'm just gonna explore it. And I think what you kind of brought up is like the role of curiosity. When we're kids, we're very curious. Like we don't close a door just once we get the answer or an answer. We're still curious. We still our mind is open. You know, we're open to experiences. We're open to trying new things, to being a new type of person. But many times as an adult, once you receive an answer, you close that door. Or like, especially if it's an answer you don't want, you just shut it and you accept it. You just like, that's it, instead of just being curious to explore things. And I would say, especially being a father and seeing it firsthand, how would you explain the role of curiosity in changing the way you see things and changing how you experience, or could lead you to the life that you want?
So two things here. Number one, when you said as adults we end up closing the door, and you're right. But I think a piece to that is we close the door based off of our own interpretation of life, on things that we've seen historically through time, right? So like I'm not going to go ask anybody anything because I saw X, Y, and Z my entire life, and that's just the way that it goes,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
got
I'm going to close the door myself. But for a
you. Ooh,
kid, when you talk about their curiosity doesn't end, you're right, because they haven't seen enough examples of what's been told or what's been shown. So what happens is when Brody comes to me, he says, "Dad, why do we do this?" And I say, "Well, this is the reason why we do this, because this, and this, right?" Well, what I've witnessed is whenever those um, situations present themselves again with other kids or other adults, there's always an aha moment for my kid. And one or two things happens. He's either going to buy into what I said, or he's going to look and see what's happening and see the results of what's happening to see where that falls in line with what I said. And if he sees the results and he says, oh, that wasn't good for that person specifically, he will then say, well, leaning more toward my dad's side, this is the way that this is and this is why. But if he sees that it was good based off his own interpretation, then he says, huh, my dad said something not saying good. He says something. And when you talk about stroking curiosity, that's where the experimentation happens. And that's where kids got the up on us in comparison to an adult who's already deemed everything its end, right? Or finite, or where it's going to be. But go ahead, Jay.
So check this out. And this is the tricky thing about all of this, right? So the same way we talked about how your thoughts lead to your destiny through going through words, actions, and then those things becoming habits, automatic, and lead to your character and destiny. The same way the thoughts that attract adjacent thoughts, those thoughts lead to you experiencing reality in a certain way. So once you experience reality in a certain way, it's easier for you to do it again. And the more you keep responding to it the same way, the easier it is to happen again until it almost becomes habit. It's like reality. Your reality is just a habit after a certain point. And so you could be thinking that you're learning from the experience of past events, but you're in a sense perpetuating it, making it happen by always responding to it to a certain way. So it's interesting how we get our knowledge and we're like, man, I showed you. You can see it always happen. It's always like this. I know what I'm talking about, but you know what you're talking about because you are the definer of it. You are the creator of it. You're the co-creator of it. And so it's important to, at any given moment, almost like take ourselves out of time and get our thoughts together that we want to think, and then practice it so that then this reality can become a habit.
And I'll say this too. So number one, I love the thought process of your reality being a habit. I love that. And the reason why I say that is because, to me, and my interpretation of life, the leading cause to depression is that habit. And the reason why I say that is because people find themselves, they're in that hypnotic rhythm that you talk about, or they're in that habit, and they can't see beyond that. And so what happens is, my habitual nature of living, do I want to do this again tomorrow? Do I want to do this again the next day? Nothing's going to change. And so because I haven't got to the point of self-care and realizing my true capacity, that I can change the dynamic of a situation just by thought, is the reason why I'm trapped in the space that I'm trapped in. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. So, okay, this brings us to this, the daily mental detox. Like, because like you said, some people are in the hypnotic rhythm that things aren't changing. Things aren't going to change anytime soon. They can't change. But as we have shown, like any moment right now, you can make a change so that you start a new pattern, you start a new rhythm, but you have to kind of be diligent in it in the beginning because it hasn't taken the shape of a pattern yet, of a habit yet. And so what could that look like for people to say, you know what, you're right, I'm tired of this. I want to see, do I have the power that you say that I have? I want to test this for myself. What can I do now? What can I do today to start to change things in my direction?
Honestly, bro, what I would say to that is, if you're taking that type of attitude right now, the attitude that you're talking about, then don't be afraid. One of the things that we do all the time is fast, right? And the only reason I do that is because you get instant gratification when you fast. At least personally, it might not be the weight, but if you're really locked in, you can see instantly your body change, right? Like, and so I think that if you're trapped in a daily mental jail cell or hell cell, try something new and pay close attention to it. Allow your thoughts to dwell on it. Something that you're not used to, something that you've already kind of killed in your mind as something that can never be a part of my world. And just do it and allow yourself to actually be it. You know what I mean? But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, something I want to say something real quick. A side note: when you brought up jail cell or hell cell, I always made this correlation. Like, we have cells in our body, but these cells, like, we lose hundreds of thousands of cells a day, and we regenerate hundreds of thousands of cells a day. And I don't think it's a coincidence that that word is cell. Like, you know, a cell can hold things in place, can, you know, and so as we change beliefs, we lose the associated cells. As we want new beliefs, we regrow certain cells to manifest those beliefs in a sense. So I just wanted to say that. But yeah, but also to your point, like, to me, fasting, as far as mental, is, even though fasting works on your mental as well, really taking the time to quiet your thoughts, man. I can't stress this enough. Even if it's 30 seconds, everybody got 30 seconds. Everybody got a minute. I don't care how busy you got a minute. Typically you should do this 10 to 15 minutes a day, but even if you have a minute, like, just really sit quietly and just practice quieting your thoughts, because what this does is show you how in control you actually are. Like, you don't have to be a slave to your thoughts. You don't have to be a victim to your thoughts. You can direct them. You can control them. And once you learn to quiet those existing thoughts, or recognize them for what they are, like, they're just a thought. It's just, this is not happening right now. This is just a thought, and watch it pass by. You can start making a new pattern where now you have a clean slate to insert whatever thoughts you want to insert.
So I love that. And again, I'm still gonna go back to the fasting, but I want to say this in a part to that. Like, the thought process of giving yourself the minute, the 2 minutes, the 15 minutes every day, the easiest way that I found for myself to do it is to do it right when I first wake up. Before my mind starts going rampant, right? Because at nighttime, for whatever reason, I'm always thinking about what tomorrow is going to bring. What am I going to do? But when I first wake up in the morning, before I start moving, I literally sit down and I first of all try to tell myself that I'm great. I tell myself that I'm amazing, and then I try to sit quietly because I haven't, uh, I guess, activated the action part of my day. So that's just a way that I encourage people to do it. And then back to the fasting part of it, um, the quieting your mind when you're hungry, if you're able to do it, you have to understand how powerful that is. Because when you put yourself in a situation where all you do is crave something, and you make yourself stop, you'll show yourself something. I promise you that. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, no, that is true, because at any moment, you know, you can end the hunger pains by just going to eat. But if you're saying, no, I'm fasting for whatever purposes you're fasting for, and then you're able to then quiet those hunger pains, it's like, man, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with you about when you first wake up. Like, and when I'm in bed, that's when I kind of set my intentions for the day. I get myself right. I won't allow myself to get out of bed till I set some intentions for myself. But I'll say also, before going to sleep, I've started setting the intention of, I'm going to have great restful sleep, and I have been ever since I've been doing that. But also, I know it's still on the mental detox. What I've started doing the past 3 months is, at 4 o'clock every day, I'll just go in the closet, sit quietly, quiet my thoughts. Sometimes I'm in there for like 20 minutes. Other times I'm in there for like 4 or 5 minutes. And it works, because like that's kind of when I'm switching from my work into my just the rest of the day, whatever I want to do for the rest of the day. And I sometimes have to shake all of that mental debris out, and that's a good way to do it. So midday breaks is a good way. So what would you say then about, like, then inputting new thoughts? Like, how can you practice thought patterns? Yeah.
Yeah. I think the best way for me is just not being afraid of the outcome of it. Because again, when you try to input a new thought that's not what you're accustomed to, number one, the only reason that you wouldn't have done it in the beginning is because the results you don't believe in yet. Like, you don't believe that if I do this thing, that which I have decided is going to come from it is going to really come, right? And so I think that a part of that is giving yourself the opportunity to trust yourself. Just like, again, it's not that we don't have this behavior already. Like, everything that we're doing, we had a belief in, and then we execute it and we have it. So it's not like I'm telling you to practice a behavior or something that you don't do on a consistent basis all the time. But it's just when those new thoughts come in the process, you forgetting that you're already doing that. And so I just encourage that whenever you decide, just like with me in the fast, I'm gonna do a 3-day fast. And when at the end of this 3-day fast, I'm gonna be more attuned to myself. I'm gonna lose 5 pounds. I'm gonna be stronger mentally. And again, these are all, in a sense, kind of subjective thinking type of things. So there's really no true way to quantify it. So that's the reason why you can come to the end of it and not feel exactly the way that you said you're gonna feel, unless you allow yourself to have that. And so that's why I say just trust in what you're saying and allow those things to be, and it'll start to make the wave that everything else in your life is making. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. So to that, I want to talk about the influence of language on thought. So we're very fortunate to have language. And what I mean by that is like when we think now, we think in our native language, or we think in a language that we know how to speak. Now I can't recall what I thought before I knew the English language. But I think when I think thoughts, it's in English. And because of that, words have a certain frequency and they're like a certain code for each of us to unlock what we want. And when we put certain words together, it creates beautiful things, like an affirmation, like saying I am great. Like that's like a code that makes us embody that greatness because we have certain meanings tied to these words. And I say all that to say that use it to your advantage. Like if something happens, you'll use a word to describe it or use a phrase to describe it, and then feel the feeling of the words that you said. But what if you could reverse that? Like, what if you could just start saying the words and then it can influence the circumstances? And to give an example of that, we know that all things are cause and effect. Like you can't have an effect without a cause. They're one. But then we start reacting to the effect, so it becomes the new cause of our behavior. So now we're saying things are effect and cause instead of cause and effect. And I'm saying, since we're already doing that, let's reverse it. Say the word, say the phrase to almost activate us in a sense. And that could be a way to get into the stance or the mind frame that we want to be in for the reality we want to experience.
And see, that goes back to the point that I'm making by trusting the thought. Because again, the reason why people don't do that is because the effect they think is going to be different than what they've determined when they verbalize it or talk it, right? But you're right, though. What's wrong with framing the words that we use in a way that's beneficial to everything? Like, it's not like anybody else has to own it. It's not like anybody else has to subscribe to it. It's not like it's going to affect anybody else in a negative way. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to affect other people, but it's not like it's going to affect them in a negative way. And so the question that you got to ask yourself is, why would I not say today is good? Why would I not say being in this situation is helpful? Why would I not say having, funny thing is, TJ sent me a quote yesterday. My 12-year-old son sent a quote, and he said, people complain. It says something like, people complain about how much is on the table when the goal was to eat anyway.
Ooh.
And for me, it's like, frame it the way you want to frame it. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And we have so much power to instantly change things. Oh, I know what I want to say, because you talked about the reason that people won't say those things is because they don't necessarily believe in it. And I know you always say one of your favorite quotes is, blessed are those who believe but do not see, right? Yeah. And it's similar to, okay, I saw 2 recent interviews where 2 different actors told another actor, I'm gonna be a star one day. And they told them this years ago, and then they came out and just ended up a star. Like, who knew? They didn't believe them when they first said it, but you believed you. You know what I mean? And you believe you anyway. You should believe you. And the only way you might not believe yourself is if you're misusing your words, if you're actively trying to deceive another on purpose. If that's your intention, that's the only way you won't believe your words. But most importantly, you believe your words, you believe your thoughts, which is the birthing ground of your words. And so why not use that to your advantage? Say the words you want to believe and believe them. Like truly activate yourself. Truly say, hey, this is me. I am great. I am a star. I'm going to be known as one of the greatest rap artists to ever do this thing. And let yourself know and believe it, regardless if anybody else believes it or not, because they will come around, because they have no choice.
It's funny again, even with you just saying the affirmations you said about yourself, right? And I think about all the stuff that I said about myself, and again for what we're trying to give people in this moment. But there was nothing that you said that was harmful, hurtful, or distracting or disturbing to me about you.
Yeah.
It has no bearing on my life. And again, that's the thing that we trick ourselves into believing along the pathway. That's the reason why the language that we're speaking is not where we need to be speaking. Because again, I would not say these things because number one, I don't deem it to be true. And I also think that you don't think it's going to be true. And it's going to have some type of adverse effect on you. And so, you just you have to allow allow yourself the opportunity to see the truth. And the truth is everything in front of you that you have, you believe that you can have it. Everything that you don't have, you don't believe that you can have it. And it's and the proof is in the pudding. There's nothing in front of you that you have that you never thought that, oh, I can have it one day. It just doesn't work out that way. And so I think that again, to your point, more blessed is he who believes and doesn't see. Say it, even when you don't believe it. Say it enough to make it real. Say it enough to trust it. Start to believe it, and then be it. And it will be just like everything else. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, the same way you said, like I said, nothing that's harmful to you. In a very real sense, anything that anyone says that someone else says is never harmful to you. Even
Right.
yeah, even when like even in this space when I was kind of new to this space and I heard people maybe speaking against themselves, I wanted to just jump in right away. Like, don't say that. I mean, I still do it to a certain extent now, but my emotions were tied to it in a negative way because I thought that either their harm would get on me or something. I don't know. I had a negative belief on that, and I realized by me trying to jump into that, I was taking myself away from this good feeling thoughts that I had. And so, and I say this to say that if people are talking maybe ill of themselves or of the world around you, just listen. Just listen. Like don't necessarily try to seek to change them. Just double up on who you are. Be who you are. Like, and that will rub off on them, especially if that because a lot of times people think that there could be toxic people, but if they could be toxic people, there could be people that could be the cure, and you could just be the cure.
So I agree with you 100%, but I'm going to give you an example of a time where I didn't abide by that, though I'm telling you that I agree with you, though, right?
Yeah.
But just this last week at school, bro, one of the students, and how we even get on this conversation. So mind you, me being a substitute, there are certain things that I can and cannot say to kids because you don't want to. They have this thing called grooming, where dudes or girls, they groom kids to like them in certain ways. Just a whole bunch of technical stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very mindful of the way that I speak, even though the way that I speak, no matter what, is always uplifting, which is a thing, right? So a kid tells me, I was at her desk and she was like, "I'm so ugly," right? And now, mind you, now I'm kind of up in a defensive stance because I'm like, okay, I don't know how to respond to this because I can't tell this little girl that she's pretty.
Yeah.
You know, I can't say certain things. And so she was like, just look at this picture. I'm just so ugly, Mr. Washington. And I was like, hey, why would you talk about why? I said, you know what? Let me explain something to you real quick. And this is where the caveat where I say that some what you think about yourself or the way that you think about yourself doesn't affect people other than when you think negatively about yourself. Because when you think negatively about yourself, as much as it doesn't affect me, it does because I don't think that you should feel that way.
Yeah.
And so I told her, I said, well, look, in this classroom, I don't ever want to hear you talk about yourself that way. And she was like, but if you just look like, so she just adamant and she's sitting by herself. She's not sitting with nobody. So now I can already see that there's a complex that's being developed, right? And so again, I get outside of myself because I cannot allow this to be the case here. And I said, well, let me explain something to you. We are all different. We all look a certain way. And you are not if you are not any you're not ugly as you're not more ugly than anybody else that's ugly in this world. Because if you're ugly, we all have to be defined the same way, right? Because you're going to be the baseline. And she was like, what? And I was like, just understand that the way that you're judging yourself is not who you truly are, because you're looking at yourself from a standpoint of unhappiness right now because of your circumstances. But I'm going to tell you, Mr. Washington is going to tell you that you are pretty. And that's the only way that you need to think about the way that you move. And she was like, thank you, right? And then you can just see her whole demeanor change. But to your point, it's not always your place to insert yourself in these situations. The way that you combat that in a lot of instances is by showing people your light, even when you don't feel that way about yourself. So I agree with you in that situation. I just happen to follow. Oh, go ahead, Jay.
But no, what I want to say is to your point, and I agree with you, is when I say insert yourself, like you didn't go negative in any way. Like you could have been like, no, you crazy. Like what you thought, like you step back like, okay, I got to do this a certain way, but I also have to remain positive when I say this. So like you're focusing on you. You're being doubly, triply intentional about how you did this. And so like, you didn't insert yourself in a sense. You were just more of you, which I'm with. But yeah, go ahead.
No. And again, that's the point. And I just want to bring it out because sometimes we do find ourselves in unique situations. But I agree with your premise though. Like the idea here is there are going to be times when I may feel the same way that girl felt about herself. You never know. Like I didn't get up off the right side of the bed this morning. My hair ain't the way that I wanted to, or I don't dress the same way. So I don't feel as confident in myself as I should. But the way that you teach somebody is that you're showing them that no matter how you look, I'm confident. So that way, whenever other people come around, they say, well, Mr. Washington is always happy. Mr. Washington, no, he always like this. He's always, so whenever people are around me, I can see even the kids, they're all coming to me with a smile. They're all coming to me with a certain type of energy because I'm showing them based off of my behavior. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, you made me think about something that how like, yeah, she could have been comparing herself to someone she saw and how comparisons lead us to not be in our right mind. So the video Shine Blind that I shot, I had played a homeless person, and we went to this location where all these kids were dressed nice in prom. They were in their prom gear taking pictures and stuff. And I didn't realize it, but I just felt like I'm playing a homeless person around all these very nicely, pristinely dressed people. And I started to develop a complex like, man, this is crazy. I need to go change clothes. But I had a purpose for, being how I am, but it just shows how easily we can let stuff play with our mind. And I was grateful that I was aware of what was forming. So I was able to take steps to not let that bother me and continue to film the video as it needed to be filmed in that space. But yeah.
Real quick, it brings a thought to myself. And again, what we do to ourselves is the most important thing here is what we're talking about. But I had some old shoes on, bro, and I was showing somebody a house, a $500,000 house, right? And in my mind, I don't know why it went there, but I looked at my shoes and I was like, these people gonna be like, well, I'm letting this dude sell me a $500,000 house, right? So it was just one of those things. And I literally went out and bought shoes the next day. Now, mind you, they never said anything about my shoes, nor did they probably ever look at it, right? But it just shows you the amount of negative energy we impress on ourselves for no reason sometimes. Yeah. And so, just to your point, go ahead, Jay.
And sometimes it just means why not just be our best self from the jump? You know what I mean? Yeah, but we at that time now. I want to say I appreciate everybody that definitely rocked with us on this show. Next week we're gonna have a special guest named Blaze, and we're gonna be talking about how to turn any crisis into a spiritual awakening. It's going to be a beautiful event next week. You want to say anything, Troy, before we get out of here?
Of course, I just want to let everybody know, if you feel like this is helpful, you feel like, you want to help someone else recognize their perfection the way that y'all help us, please like, share, and subscribe. That's how we make the show grow. And definitely we want to be here, and we want to make sure that we're always providing, our perfection. You know what I mean? So just let y'all know that we're grateful for y'all. And that's it, Jay.
Yeah, so appreciate y'all again. And remember, you're a perfect creation made by a perfect creator. So you might as well accept your perfection and enter perfect mode. Yeah. If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm Jay Clay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect.